I'll be showing you how to use a shim to fit a shaft into a club head where the shaft is a different size than the club head. Now, the purpose of a shim, which is this little piece right here, is to fit a shaft that is smaller than, that has a smaller diameter than the head that you're putting it into. If you have it the other way around, so the head or the hosel here is smaller than the shaft, you'd have to use a reamer to drill out the head, and that's a little bit more complicated, so I'm not showing that in this tutorial. Anyways, this head is a 0.350 diameter hosel, and this shaft is a 0.335 diameter tip. So if I just put this in normally, there's a lot of extra room. There's like wiggle room almost, and that's definitely not what you want when you're playing around to golf, because it's gonna come loose and your club head is gonna go flying into the middle of a pond, and you really don't want that, especially when you purchase a new 3-wood for $250. You don't want that. So in order to prevent that, what we're gonna do is put this shim on the end of the shaft and then insert the shaft normally. So let's get our ferrule. This is just a wood ferrule. Put that on, and as you can see, it's not sliding past this point. So what I'll do is take a heat gun and heat it up for just a few seconds, not long enough to where it's going to melt. Just warm enough to loosen it up, and then this should slide on. There we go. Alright, so now this is ready to put the shim on. And I also want to note, I cleaned out the hosel, prepped the shaft with sandpaper, and drilled out any of the existing epoxy in the end of the shaft. So this is totally prepped. I'll put the shim on. And now we're ready for some epoxy. Mix the epoxy up, and then what I'll do is I'll put the epoxy on the shaft, I'm making sure not to plug up this tip here, because there's a hole, kind of a smaller hole at the tip of the shaft, and you don't want to clog that up with epoxy. Otherwise, as I explained in several other videos, that's going to create a little, it'll trap the air in the club head, and you won't be able to insert the shaft all the way. Alright, so the shaft has been epoxied. Now I'm going to put on the shim. And then after that, I'm going to just lightly put on some epoxy over the shim. Finally, put the remaining epoxy in the club head. Now this should be ready.